You know, when we think about what keeps our planet's climate in balance, our minds usually jump to the Amazon rainforest or maybe the vast oceans. But there's this other absolutely massive ecosystem circling the entire northern hemisphere that often gets overlooked, and it plays a colossal role. So today, we're going to talk about the boreal forest and the critical danger it's facing.
Let's just dive right in with a single, really important question. What if this vast forest, a system that has historically helped stabilize our climate, what if it flipped a switch and actually started to accelerate global warming instead? That's the really scary possibility we're digging into here.
So first things first, what is the boreal forest? Well, you might know it as the taiga. It's this immense green belt of coniferous trees that stretches all the way across Russia, Scandinavia, Canada, and Alaska. And it is, by a long shot, the largest single land ecosystem on the whole planet. I mean, just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, the boreal forest, it makes up a staggering 1/3 of all the forests on the entire planet. That sheer size is exactly why its health is so critical to the global system.
But here's the kicker. The real power of the boreal forest when it comes to climate isn't just in the trees you can see. It's actually hidden in the ground. This ecosystem is a massive carbon vault, holding almost 1/3 of all the carbon stored in soil on Earth. For centuries, it's kept that carbon locked away, safely out of the atmosphere.
Okay, so we have this huge, stable system, but now it's facing a really serious threat. It's almost like it's running a fever. The boreal region is warming up way faster than the global average, and that's putting the whole ecosystem under this incredible stress.
And this is the heart of the problem. Over the last century, the average temperatures in the Arctic have climbed almost twice as fast as the rest of the world. You can think of it like this. The whole planet has a fever, right? But the far north, it's practically on fire.
And look, this isn't just some abstract number on a chart. It has real, tangible consequences on the ground. The boreal forest is a system that's super sensitive to temperature. The trees, the soil, all the life there, it's all finely tuned to a cold climate. And this rapid warming is pushing it way past its comfort zone, right to its limits.
And if you think that's bad, the future projections are even more alarming. Models are showing that if the global average temperature goes up by 2.8 degrees Celsius, most of the boreal belt will get hit with a much higher warming of 4 to 5 degrees. That is a huge shift for such a finely tuned, delicate system.
So you gotta ask, what happens when you turn up the thermostat that much, that fast? Well, it's not a gentle, slow change. This fever unleashes this whole cascade of destructive events that are becoming more frequent, more intense, and are spreading over much wider areas.
We're basically seeing 3 big problems getting a whole lot worse because of this warming. Raging wildfires, massive insect outbreaks, and the thawing of the frozen ground the forest is built on.
All right, let's talk about fire first. Just between the 1960s and the 1990s, the total area burned by wildfires across the North American boreal region shot up by 2.5 times. That's a massive jump in a really, really short amount of time.
And hey, this isn't just happening in North America. Over in Russia, the data from both the ground and from satellites shows the exact same alarming trend. The amount of land that's burning is going up. In those once-in-a-lifetime fire seasons, they're becoming the new normal.
Okay, next up, insects. And you won't believe this, but these insect outbreaks, they're now chewing through even more forest than wildfires are. In British Columbia, a single mountain pine beetle outbreak hit 37 million hectares. That's huge. And in Alaska, warmer summers meant the spruce beetle could reproduce twice as fast in 1 year instead of 2. And that fueled this huge outbreak that wiped out, get this, 90% of the spruce trees in the area.
And the third big problem is literally happening right under the forest's feet. Huge parts of the boreal grow on permafrost, basically permanently frozen ground. As it gets warmer, that ground starts to thaw and collapse, turning stable, dry forests into soggy, unstable wetlands and bogs. It's totally transforming the landscape from the ground up. So, here's where it all comes together. The really crucial point is this. All these disturbances, the fire, the insects, the thawing ground, they do more than just kill trees. They release those massive stores of carbon that were locked away in the trees and the soil. And that's what creates this incredibly dangerous, self-reinforcing cycle.
See, for thousands of years, the boreal forest has been what we call a carbon sink. Simple, right? It just means it soaked up more carbon than it let out. But with all these disturbances we've been talking about, it's in real danger of becoming a carbon source, pumping out more carbon into the atmosphere than it absorbs.
And this is what that dangerous feedback loop looks like in action.
First, the climate warms. That leads to more fires, more pests, and more thaw. In turn, those disturbances release huge amounts of stored carbon. And all that extra carbon in the atmosphere, it just makes the warming worse, which starts the whole cycle over again. But this time, it's even stronger.
And I want to be really clear. This isn't some far-off theory. This is happening now. In some parts of Canada, this dangerous switch has already been flipped. The increase in disturbances was enough to turn a crucial carbon sink into a net carbon source.
So this is where we have to zoom out and look at the global picture. Because a regional feedback loop is bad enough, but because the boreal forest is just so massive, its transformation could affect the entire planet. We're talking about the very real risk of crossing a major climate tipping point.
So what's a tipping point? Well, think of it like a threshold. Once you push the system past it, you can trigger these huge, sudden, and potentially irreversible changes. And scientists now consider the large-scale dieback of the boreal forest to be one of these critical tipping points for the planet.
So you're probably wondering, what's the magic number? What's the threshold? Well, the critical limit for large-scale boreal dieback is estimated to be somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 degrees Celsius of global warming. And when you remember those projections we looked at earlier, well, you can see we're getting uncomfortably close to that window.
And what happens if we cross that line? Honestly, it's terrifying. We're not just talking about losing trees. We could see huge areas of forest permanently turn into grassland. This would release a carbon bomb, so much stored carbon that it could trigger a kind of runaway warming that would accelerate way beyond our ability to control it.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty sobering thought. This great northern forest, which has been this quiet, steady regulator for our planet's climate for ages, is now on the verge of becoming an accelerator. It's a critical tipping point for all of us. And the question we really have to ask ourselves is, are we pushing it too far?